Mwahaha! Welcome to Bodhi's Backstage Pass. I wonder if you will make it out alive. Because on this day, this very Halloween, even though it's not Halloween, we have a new background and it's dark. Yay! Are we interviewing again?
So today we're going to interview Pete Kronowitt. He is a singer-songwriter from San Francisco, and he's got a new album out. It's his 5th record. He's pretty cool. We're really excited to talk to him, and he should be calling us any second now.
Wonder when that's gonna happen.
All right, hold tight. We'll be back. I'm a little scared. Can we turn the lights on?
Okay.
Whew. Pete, how are you?
It worked.
How's it going?
It's going great.
Awesome.
How's it going with you guys?
What's that?
How's it going with you guys?
It's going well. It's going well. I'm Eric. This is Bodhi.
Yes.
He's ready for Halloween.
Yeah.
So why don't you introduce yourself and tell us what you're a little bit about what you're up to.
Oh, hanging out, playing some music. I think there's some election coming up soon, something like that. That's mostly what I've been doing.
Yeah, we have the debate on in front of us, and we're not paying any attention to it because we're focused on music, something that actually brings us some joy. So we understand that you're from San Francisco, and we're over here in Alameda. So
okay, you're great.
Yeah, so we're neighbors, and we know that you have a new release out, and we listened to it, and we really like it. And we know
great.
5th record, which is such an accomplishment. So let's start with, why don't you tell us a little bit about what it's like being a musician in San Francisco?
Well, so I moved to San Francisco from Southern California back in 2012, and the music scene here is just so phenomenal. For one thing, the comparison, I'm from the East Coast originally, but I really love California. And having a condensed area where you can actually get to places with, not worrying about traffic and being able to get to, whether it's shows to go watch or shows to go play. And there's so many places to play when we could play live, before the pandemic. And there's such a great supportive music scene. And really, there's so many great things about San Francisco. I'm just kind of enamored with the, Northern California and the Bay Area.
Yeah, there's just a fantastic music scene and a tradition here, I mean, and being a folk singer songwriter, I mean, it's just a perfect environment for you. So Bodhi was asking me, he wanted to kind of know a little bit more about what is the folk genre, and then tell us what a singer songwriter does.
Yeah. What is the folk genre? Well, I think the name folk kind of describes it. It's about folks. It's, it came from a tradition of, of many different cultures having their own tradition of music, and each of those continued that tradition of music in ways to bring that culture forward and express themselves. And then, of course, one of the great traditions of folk music is around expressing, personal circumstance and things that were representative of social justice. And so that was one of the big things that, kept me interested in folky music.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, I mean, when I think about folk music, I think about Woody Guthrie and like Pete Seeger, guys like that, that have something to say. So who are some of the names, that were influential to you?
Well, what's interesting is, I didn't start out thinking, oh boy, folk music was the thing that motivated me. I listen and love so many different kinds of music, and stuff that was on the radio. That's what I listened to and sang, and then when I started playing guitar, was the stuff that I heard on the radio, and but it was always those songs that like that guy John Lennon. You probably can't see that really well, but uh, when the Beatles and specifically John Lennon started really singing about songs that had more substantive meaning to it, that I thought, it was really, that would be a really interesting thing to try and express, right? Because it's, how do you do that? Like, how do you process the complexity of the world? And then you boil it down to a 4 3-minute song, something like that. Yeah, it's so to be able to do that and do it with figuring out the right way to approach it. I thought that would be, it's part of what I like doing as a songwriter.
So, how old were you when you first heard the Beatles?
Oh boy, I was a little kid. I was. How old are you, Bodhi?
9.
9. Okay, I'm thinking I was probably the same age, maybe pretty close to that when I got really familiar with the Beatles. They were still together when I was 9. Not for long, but they were still together. And I remember when they broke up, and it was a big deal. And I listened to all that music, and then I got a little older, like in high school, and I was visiting with an aunt and uncle. I stayed with them through the summer in the Washington, D.C. area, and they had a bunch of old Beatles albums, and that's all that I listened to all the time, and they were just very influential in sonically and harmonically and songwriting. Yeah, it's hard not to, it wasn't just the Beatles that I liked, but the Beatles were a big influence for sure.
So who else did you like when you were a kid?
Boy, when I was a kid, I liked everything that was on the radio. Like when I was a kid, Elton John was really big on the radio. And then, I got a little older, and then it was like the Eagles, and I grew up in Florida. So this guy named Jimmy Buffett was really big down there, and across the country too. Jimmy Buffett had a big, I think he had a #1 hit in 1972. It's a little before your time, Bodhi. And so when I first started playing the guitar, it was Jimmy Buffett songs that I learned. So he's certainly, I don't think he's considered folk, but he's got some really nice, thoughtful songs in addition to his happy party songs. So that's what I listen to.
That's cool.
So which guitar would you mainly play more, the electric or acoustic?
Well, since you're asking, it's this acoustic guitar.
Yes, that's the acoustic.
That's definitely an acoustic. So I've had this guitar for 40 years. It was my roommate's guitar in college. And when I moved in, I started playing his guitar, and I played it so much that when he moved out, he took everything of his except this guitar. And here's a scar. See the scar right here? This is where the dorm bed fell on the guitar. And then, since I grew up in Florida, you can see that pick guard, how it's all wavy like that. Yeah, that light works really well. That's because I used to leave this guitar in the car trunk during the summer, and the guitar melted. This plastic thing melted. So I kind of abused my relationship with this guitar, and then I began to realize how much I loved it. So I really do love this guitar. I have a bunch of guitars, but I love this guitar. This is the guitar I wrote most of my songs on, and
kind of reminds me of Willie Nelson's guitar trigger with that big old hole that he's worn through it.
Yeah, I'm working on it. I'm still working on it.
Yeah, I think he's got plenty of room, plenty of life left in it.
Yeah.
So how old were you when you picked up the guitar?
I picked it up the first time, I probably was in 6th grade, but you know, I learned a little bit, a couple songs and stuff and put it back down. Didn't pick it up again until I got to college. So I was 18 when I really started trying to learn the guitar.
So I heard that you were an activist. What's mainly do you do to an activist? I know what an activist is, just I don't really understand the premise.
Yeah. So an activist, just like you think that the word sounds like, it's someone who looks at the world around you and you try and figure out what you can do to make a difference. And there's a lot of ways that you can do that. And you know, you can be an activist for any cause. And whatever you, so Bodhi, what do you care about? What do you care about?
Mainly what I care about is mainly a lot of stuff. My Rickenbacker, hoping that Paul McCartney doesn't die because I can't bear to see him go.
So you're a Beatles fan too?
Yes.
Okay.
My life is basically the Beatles.
Then I hit that one out of the park, didn't I?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
That's mainly what I just want to care about is my Rickenbacker and Paul McCartney not dying.
Well, you know, it's hard to like to be an activist around someone not dying, but around music, there's plenty of ways to be active and make sure that, you know, like what you're doing actually, you're kind of an activist, the two of you, by bringing people who play music, record music, and perform music, you know, and talking to them and promoting it. You know, this is a way for you to become active. And, you know, like when I was young, my parents taught me to, by example, just like your dad's teaching you, you know, to if you care about something, figure out ways to support it. And that's what you guys are doing. So.
And you are such a great storyteller. You're just a born storyteller, man. At what point in your career did you start realizing, like, I mean, you had a varied interest, like a lot of people, you know, they like a lot of different music, and then you gravitate towards one genre and you kind of become a specialist. I know that you have different flavors in your music, but I mean, it seems like storytelling is something that you've started doing early on, and you're obviously good at it. So at what point in your career did you realize you were good at this and you wanted
this might be the day I figured it out. When you told me, I don't really feel like a great storyteller. I feel, you know, like I know that we all have experiences, and it's really, I think when being able to describe those experiences and in a way that people can relate to is good. And, you know, and looking, I think one of the things about being an activist, you know, like when you're an activist, what you do is the first thing you do with other people to really get them comfortable with your context in life is you tell them the story of what caused you to care about that thing. And so that's really, you know, the start of it for everybody who's engaged. But yeah, I'm still learning.
So should we talk about the new album and some of the things that, you know, because I love to talk about activism and I like to think about changing the world. And I know that, you know, you've got music out there that's hopeful, that's sending messages. So, you know, let's talk about the new album and then some of the messages that you're trying to put out there.
No, absolutely. I really appreciate that, because, you know, it's one thing, you know, to put out the music, but then to be able to put context to it sometimes is very helpful. And the album, you know, the album was born because I felt a sense of urgency of where we are in our country and where we are in the world. I felt like there's some really big things that we need to bring attention to, but we also need to take action. And so I've been on a path for maybe, it's probably been about 4 years or so, but really focused in the last 2.5 to combine music on one hand and activism on the other, and try and bring them together. So, you know, the album covers, there's 2 songs about climate change. There's a couple songs about politics and where we are. There's, songs about, kind of sweeter songs that give context that we can make a difference. And I like thinking about how you can make a difference. Well, the path that I was on was to figure out how we can take our performances and make a difference. And so that's what I've been doing, is trying to use performances to give people, the audience that I perform to, very explicit calls to action where they can actually do something to make a difference. And I think that's one thing. And like you mentioned Pete Seeger and Woody Guthrie, and all the great songs, protest songs and social justice songs of the 60s, 70s, and even, especially today. I felt that's what was missing, is guiding people to take the next step is a really, like a thoughtful next step is a really important part.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you have to have a call to action with your message. And, I think you understand that. You had a question about a song. Which song was it?
Yes, Roly Poly. What's the song really about? I have a guess about roly polies.
That's a good guess.
Did I get it?
That's a good guess. Yeah. So the song, it takes the idea of this roly poly. Like, you know what a roly poly is, right, Bodhi?
Yes, I have seen one a lot and enjoy them turning into a beach ball.
Yeah, they look like roll into a little ball. And so, do you know that a roly poly is not an insect?
Oh, what?
It's not actually an insect.
It's a vegetable?
It's not a vegetable. It's not something you put in your salad. I don't think so, anyway.
What?
So roly-poly is actually like a crab or a shrimp. It's a crustacean. Yeah. Anyway, there's this park over near my house, and I was sitting in the park and I was looking down, and I was just thinking, because I had seen this, I saw this this poster up in a coffee shop locally that said, "There's no plan B." There's no plan B. And I was like, that's the term stuck in my head. And then I looked down and there was a roly-poly. I was like, maybe there's something there. And it took me about a year and a half with other people, with two other great songwriters, Chris Harbaugh and Mimi Hearn, that I met at a songwriter retreat, to finish writing that song. And so the song is about thinking about this little animal that tries to protect itself. And it rolls up in a ball, kind of like what we do when, when we're little babies, we roll up in a ball, right? So I thought that it's kind of like something that we do, something that they do, but it doesn't really protect us. It's like we try and protect ourselves, but we need to do a little bit more. So Mimi came up with that idea of the middle part of the song, the bridge, to really put a very clear question in there about what could I do? And I love that line. There's so many lines in that song I really love, but yeah, I love that line. And so it really asks that question, are we doing what we can? Asking that personally, can we do something? So that's what this song is about.
I love it. I mean, what Do Something Now is the name of the album. And it's very motivating, right? I think it's great that you realize that you need a call to action, right? On top of the messaging.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I would be remiss if I didn't give the call to action, right? Even so that, like right now, of course, we're, 28 days, unless you're on the East Coast now, we've crossed midnight. So that's 27 days until the election. And so if you're old enough to vote, Bodhi, you're not old enough to vote, but if you're old enough to vote, everybody obviously should go vote, but it's not enough anymore. That's the thing. We need to encourage others to go vote. And Bodhi, you can do that. And
cool.
Everybody can be an activist and try and make sure that we figure out creative ways to encourage people to think about their role in voting and how important their vote is. it may have been before that people didn't really understand. They didn't think their vote counted for one reason or another. They didn't think it was important. Well, I think people understand now a little bit more because of all the crazy stuff that's happened in the last 3 years, 4 years.
No, I agree with you. How do you stay? I mean, I think at times, and maybe more now than ever, I feel a little deflated and just powerless, right? And I'm kind of angry with the choices. So how do you stay motivated and stay a participant of the system, and not just walk away from it,
So in almost all the, so I started doing the short answer is to cross that line from being overwhelmed with the negative and to figure out what it is we should be doing, to cross that line into taking action, like you taking action. And it's a huge transformation that goes on. And one thing that's happened to me, which is pretty surprising, and in every show I do, I quote Billy Bragg, another social justice singer-songwriter, and he talks about how it's our cynicism that we have to defeat. And we do that, one way we do that is with empathy. And that's a good songwriting technique, right? Is to go tell stories, whether it's about a roly-poly or, you tell a story about a person, and then you can see things from their perspective. But the other thing, and here's like the really crazy, wild thing, I've lost my cynicism about politicians because I've gotten to know the people who are running for these offices that we normally ignore in the state legislatures across the country. And so far, I've done 29 online shows for state legislative races, and in really important states and really important districts. And it's amazing to see these people they're just regular folks, like folk music. They're regular folks who care, and they want to make a difference, and they need help to win. So we use the simple tactics that campaigns use to help them win. We make phone calls, write postcards, send text messages. And, if people can do it, then they contribute. It's getting a little late to contribute now in the election cycle, but they could still use contributions in these small races.
I appreciate that. I forgot.
Stop! My spidey sense is tingling. It's time for Bodo Randall question.
What do I have to do? Okay.
Hold up the sign.
Sign? What sign?
That sign.
Okay. All right.
Bodo Rando question. Okay, question.
Yeah.
Time to think of a rando question. How'd that what?
Got a malfunction.
Malfunction. Bartholomew, you fix that. Okay, time to think of a random question. I got it. If you can make a design on any of your guitars, like any design, like no matter what it is, what would it be? Mine would be a Rickenbacker with Christmas lights in it. I wish I can afford one of those.
Okay, so your question is, any type of guitar design, what would it be?
Yeah.
Right, Pete? Good luck.
Okay. All right. Well, in the spirit of you wearing your bubbles on your head, and it's close to Halloween,
Like alien eyeballs.
I did prepare in advance. So to answer the rando question,
I have that hat.
you have that hat? Okay. I felt like I needed to,
This is uncanny.
There you go. I didn't know you. Oh, look at that. You have exactly the same hat.
I feel naked.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think I can actually answer this question. I would, and it's based on, I happened to go into a pawn shop and see a guitar. I want that guitar, but I can't find it because I didn't buy it. I regret it. I would want a small travel guitar, like like a third of the size of this. It's kind of like this. This is a really great guitar, but it's not a travel guitar. So I would have a smaller size guitar that has the resonance and tone and booming volume that this is a Yamaha. It's an old, obviously old Yamaha, and it sounds like this, but I could travel with it and I don't have to worry about it. I'm worried about my guitar, so I don't travel with this anymore. So that's what I would have.
Oh,
And I've been looking for that guitar. I have a Taylor Mini GS. But yeah, sorry, Eric.
I was just saying, I'm really, that's sweet how much that guitar means to you. I love it. So,
Oh yeah, I love that guitar now.
It's been 5 albums now. How has that's a lot. That's a big journey, and that's a lot of songs, a lot of emotions, a lot of moods. How has your music changed and your approach to songwriting changed over these last several albums?
I think you broke up a little bit and went on mute. Sorry. How is my songwriting and mood changed? And
your approach to music and things that you've when you started writing, was there a certain thing that you would gravitate towards? And nowadays, are there different messages that you want to get out? Tell me about the evolution.
Yeah. Well, when I first started writing, like a lot of people, you write about things, so I wrote about heartbreak and girls. And then really, I wrote a lot about my family and people that I loved, like I guess I have 4 songs about my wife now. And I love all those songs. But through the whole thing, I have been writing songs that, really, I use songwriting as a way to process how the world is. And sometimes it really works out well, and sometimes it's really more just a more abstract expression. What's changed is I co-write now. I didn't used to co-write at all, and that's been a lot of fun to co-write. Like Roly Poly, for example, was co-written, and there's 2 other songs in the album that the great songwriter Viola Krause wrote with me, Stay Safe and Big Old Stick of Wood. So co-writing is one great thing. Another thing is I think I've become a little bit more playful, less serious with some of the songs, and really kind of getting back to that thing, that moment of inspiration where you just let things come to you and you don't have to analyze them really a lot and dwell on them. I don't do that with every song. Some songs I spend a lot of time on, but there were songs on this album, like one song, We're All Gonna Die. That song literally was a 5-minute songwriting process. I just let that come to me, and the way that I played it is exactly like the first time I ever played that song, and just I let it out there and I let it go. So
that's awesome, man. I love it.
I have a question, Dad.
Okay, that's good.
For you. The question was, what's your favorite brand of a guitar? Mine is Rickenbacker, of course.
Yeah.
Even though I'm a Beatles fan.
Well, I'm not like a gearhead. I'm not one of those people who collects a lot of stuff. I really love my old Yamaha. And so therefore, I guess I like Yamahas. I got another Yamaha specifically because I like that Yamaha. And I tried to use it as a travel guitar. And I don't know, it's pretty good, but it's not my old Yamaha. So I'd have to say maybe Yamaha. Maybe Yamaha's. I like the Taylor that I bought. And this guitar, this I bought at the beginning of the pandemic. It's a 1950s guitar. So it's a really old guitar that's reconditioned. It's I don't know if you can see it says Harmony is the name of the make.
Yeah, I remember those.
Yeah, and it's got a really great sound. This guitar is on the album, so really excited about that.
What model is that?
Yamaha.
What model is that Harmony? looks like a
You
nicer,
know,
like a kind of a newer, like a nicer version because they were made out of like presswood or something back in the day.
I really think this is made out of presswood,
Is it?
but
Okay.
it's got a great sound.
It does sound good.
And oh, it sounds great. Yeah, this is like that beginning. I don't. It's going to sound terrible on Zoom, I think. So.
Okay.
Yeah,
Kind of muddy
it's got
sound.
really good.
That one's got some nice clarity to it all.
Yeah, yeah. I've actually, and the thing about that harmony, I think I have it written down somewhere of what the when I bought it, I kept the name of it. It's like a concerto, I think it might be, but it doesn't say it on the guitar. Yeah, the neck. I think the guy who reconditioned the guitar really did a great job, and he pulled the strings just a little bit apart, which is also kind of nice.
That's awesome. Yeah. So like, I think it was really cool to hear that you've been politically active during COVID. And what else have you been doing? Because it's such an unprecedented time for musicians. And I know you had tour dates lined up, so how are you like getting by and still, how are you sharing music with the world?
Yeah, I came up with a really novel idea. So going back to my, the political thing. And what I was planning on doing was I was going to go to a couple of states and do live performances for state house candidates that were in competitive races that, for one reason or another. So Bodhi, there's this thing that happens every 10 years. The US government starts asking questions about where people live. It's called the census. And once the census is done, after it's finished, then they figure out, okay, so the population's moved and grown and shrank in different places. And then what they do is they redraw all of the people vote in. And each district represents, the voting for one person who's going to represent them, whether it's in Congress or in the state legislature. So that happens once every 10 years. So we're right at the time. It happens on when a zero happens like 2020 in the end of the year. And so they redraw those districts next year, and then they stay in place for a decade. So this is a chance for us to influence redrawing those districts and making sure they're fair. So I've been targeting states where we can flip at least one chamber of a state legislature. And because I couldn't do live performances, we decided to do online performances. And those are the performances that we've done. And I've recruited lots of other artists, a lot of them social justice artists, but artists who, are either live in those districts or the states. And it's been so much fun because not only have we been able to play these shows and get an audience, like, we've got, like for an artist like myself, like 30,000 views is pretty good. So we've gotten about 30,000 views on these shows. And we've also all got to meet the candidates who are running. And each one of these shows has been like, so we play we play a set of music, and then the candidate speaks for about 10 minutes or so. So that's what we've been doing.
Oh, that's fantastic, man. I love it. Are you reaching out to the candidate? So you must be reaching out to the candidates, right? Is that how it's working?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. I think, man, if this is a great idea, if it can snowball, I think it's fantastic. And so people are receptive to it, I'm imagining.
Yeah, the candidates have, for one thing, like these candidates, they're running relatively small races, right? So you come to them, it's free advertising, they get name recognition from it, and the artist, they play for free, because they don't have budgets for these state legislative races. And for all of us, we're playing for new audiences, people who usually wouldn't have heard of us before. And that's always, that's always fun, right? I get to play my music in every one of these shows. There's very few people who are my typical audience. Usually it's, a new audience. And so it's a win for everybody involved. And, finding that is just so beautiful. And you're doing something that's, that's genuinely helping. We've raised about $23,000 from these shows. And again, these are small races, their budgets are small. So yeah, I think, I mean, I don't know in like the big scheme of things, how it'll make an impact, but I do think that you're right. I think that there's an opportunity for other artists to do something similar to what I did, and it could snowball.
And not just politicians, but ballot measures, for specific issues. You could,
Yeah.
I've got lots of activist friends, and they've put together some playbooks on how to change laws to decriminalize certain like medicinal plants. And
Yeah.
just one example where this would be a great combination.
Well, so we came up with this recipe. It's a really simple, it's a blueprint. It's you pick a cause, right? And you do a show for that cause. And before you do the show, you talk to the organization that has some expertise and develop the call to action. And then when you play, you have a ready-made call to action, not just on what you think is the right thing, but from the organization who has expertise in that area, right? Because that's what they do. They should be able to help you with the call to action. And so it's a really simple idea. And I think that's what was missing in the 60s and 70s, at least, like the music was phenomenal. And it really did motivate people. But sometimes, there's like a song like Imagine, which is a visionary song. But what do we do to accomplish that vision?
Yeah. You're right. I think, a lot of people forget about the call to action. You really have to connect the dots for people, because you're going to inspire them, but then they don't quite know what to do with that inspiration.
That's the whole idea. And I don't think it's always up to the artist to be able to make that call to action. You can bring in someone from the organization and they could do it. I mean, and they would love to do it. So like a lot of artists do. Some artists are absolutely expert in an area, and they could do that call to action very easily, and they shouldn't have to rely on someone. But they're it took me getting involved in grassroots electoral organizations to understand all the tactics that need to be used. And so I became more of an expert as I did that. And so when I approach campaigns, I can talk to them in their language and tell them that we're going to reinforce the calls to action for their campaigns. So that's, but I think that a lot of artists don't know, and a lot of regular people don't know. They do need that, people want to have an impact, but they don't always know what to do. Climate change is a great example of that, by the way. I won't go into it too much, but trying to have an impact on climate change is not easy, because it seems like an overwhelming problem, and it is. But there are things we can do, just small things that we can do, like speaking out about it, right? Making sure that people know that climate change is real and happening. Using less plastic and less things that go into the landfill.
Okay, so that's two things. Give us one
more thing. There's really easy ways to reduce your home energy use, whether it's like we all know to turn off the light switches and stuff, but unplugging things. I think there's something like home energy use in the United States is like 20% of US greenhouse gas emissions. I mean, that's huge. And so making sure you get efficient heat pumps and the right kind of stove, or whatever you can do to if you're able to afford energy saver kinds of appliances, those kind of things make a big difference.
That's awesome, man. I love it. So I now, we got to start wrapping things up. So I want to make sure, how do people, two different things. How do people get involved to help you spread your message and help, with this political approach? How do we find you to get involved in that?
So I've started a group called Face the Music Collective. We have a Facebook page, we have a website. And if you're an artist or someone who just wants to help, we have lots of people who are not artists who are involved in helping put this together. Just send us an email, and it's really easy to find us, Face the Music Collective. Or you can search for my name, and you can find me on Facebook as well. And I do respond to my messages. So yeah.
All right, I'm definitely going to send you an email. Now, how do people find out about to get the new record?
Oh, the new record. do something now.
There it is.
Kind of catchy. It's on iTunes, it's on Amazon, it's in Spotify, it's, you know, every place that you want to look. Also Bandcamp, you know, Bandcamp is the preferred artist location to sell music. They do a really good job.
Is there a tangible CD version that
Yeah,
you
there's
sell?
I only have a limited number, but
Okay.
yeah, it's a real CD.
Okay, and they can
Is
get
Is that backward for you? I don't know.
now we're seeing it normal, and they
That's good.
can get it off your website. Look you up and
So if you want actually a physical copy of the CD, you go to Bandcamp. And I think I can't remember. I have not, because I've been so focused on the activism side, I've really not kept up the website really well. So I probably have to do that.
well, people need to, you know, if people want to support your activism and your music by purchasing some of your swag, that's what we're looking to do. We want to encourage folks to go out there and support musicians that they like and that are making a difference.
That'd be really great.
So we can find you on Facebook, on you have a YouTube channel, yeah?
I do have a YouTube channel, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, and I'm putting together a Face the Music Collective YouTube channel of all the shows that we've done too. And there's some great shows. Willy Porter, Hans Olsen, and Walt Richardson from Arizona. Seth Bernard from Michigan. I mean, like some of the greatest regional artists in the country have been doing these shows with me. Scott Cooper, man, that guy's awesome. Yeah.
I'm so inspired, man. I'll be in touch, and really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us.
Oh, this is an absolute joy, and Bodhi, keep playing.
Yeah, he has one more question for you. It's going to be along the lines of the keep playing question.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The question is, what advice would you give to an oncomer rocker, like someone who's about to rock, but is about to join a band? They're always saying in not English.
Okay. Advice for a young
Not-
incoming musician.
Well, I think that's, if I went to my young self, I would say, don't be so critical of the things that you're doing. You know, embrace learning. When something's difficult, you are learning. And that's, the more fun you can make that, the more you can accept that, you know, like, more than you can accept that you're going to make mistakes, and you're going to make mistakes as you make mistakes, you grow. I think the better. And then write stuff down or record it so you have it later, and then you can go listen to it. The stuff that I have from a long time ago, I really love that. I love that I have it, you know, and it shows where I was at that moment. You know, like this recording is just capturing a bunch of musicians in the studio at that moment, and it's just a beautiful thing. So, you know, document stuff, and then you learn from all that. So just enjoy it.
Thanks so much, Pete, man. I really appreciate it.
Yes.
Right
Yeah.
on.
Well,
Good luck.
I so appreciate you having me, and the fact that you're doing this and promoting music and songwriters. You guys are great. Really, this is nice.
Man, we all love music, and that's just, I think it's so great to be able to talk about it, to share it, to pass it along. You know, it's just part of the, you know, it's part of a cool club that we all belong to.
It is. It's the coolest club.
I agree, man.
Yeah.
I love it.
Well,
all right, Pete, man. We look forward to having you back on.
Sure.
Soon.
Yeah. And yeah, I look forward to getting your email. All right, cool.
On it.
Yeah, nice meeting you, Bodhi. Nice meeting you, Eric.
Anytime you can call on here and we'll interview you again.
Cool.
If you want that to happen.
All right.
All right, Pete. Cheers.
Cool.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.